So COVID has hit the town of Eddington, New Mexico. How did they take it? Well, let's talk about it. So Eddington is the new Ari Aster movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, and Deirdre O'Connell. Those are some of the main players, but there's a lot of people in this cast. Essentially, what the movie is Eddington, New Mexico. Basically, you have Joaquin Phoenix, who plays this kind of more conservative sheriff of Eddington, and then you have Pedro Pascal, who plays the current mayor, and he seems like he's been mayor for a long time, and he seems a little bit more progressive, but he has a kind of a shady history, and Joaquin Phoenix, the sheriff, decides to go up against him in a mayoral election, fighting for the everyman, where Pedro Pascal is fighting for more progressive values, and the lines start to fray almost immediately. Let's get into the meat and bones of this, because there's a lot to talk about. So Joaquin Phoenix, absolutely, he plays Unhinged beautifully. Like, I mean, I love Beau is Afraid, and he's even more unhinged than that, but this is like a very almost molded unhingedness that I've never really seen him do before, and it's totally believable. But you kind of get that this guy, is like a couple hairs away from losing it. And that goes to the point of a lot of what this movie really goes into, especially dealing with the COVID pandemic and a lot of the baggage that came along with it. And baggage is probably not even the right word, but we'll get into it. Pedro Pascal plays the mayor, the current existing mayor that is reinforcing the mask mandate in this town, and Joaquin Phoenix's sheriff does not like that. He thinks, he has asthma, he can't breathe, A lot of the kind of tropes of the pandemic are very present in this movie and very expounded on, and it all takes place in this small town of Eddington. Every little thing you can imagine plucked from that, that 2-year span, 2020, 2021, dropped right into Eddington. All the civil unrest, the social media, the paranoia, the anger, the fear, the frustration, the violence, all that compounding in Eddington, New Mexico. Ari Aster does a very good job of bringing all these ideas and these human kind of experiences and emotions and situations and really distilling it and putting it all basically in like a snow globe kind of atmosphere, so that we could watch all this happen in a third party view, and see how things really kind of played out. And maybe a couple years later, it's been 4 or 5 years, we could kind of look at what was going on a little differently. At least I hope. It still feels very fresh, at least to me, but still pretty effective. There's a lot of comedy. There's a lot of I definitely sneered and chuckled at some of this, but some of it still felt very raw and real, especially a lot of how, and it's ironic saying this through YouTube, but how social media really impacted everyone during the pandemic, because that is the one tie that everybody had to the rest of the world was social media, and then what we chose to digest. Some chose educational, some chose, more conspiratorial, some chose to go down a more, I'm going to choose my words carefully. Some people went down the more question everything path. Some decided that they would trust the more trusting path, and that caused more fractures in kind of the world. There was already lots of fractures, but, the pandemic, as we all know, created this tipping point, and we see that in a kind of a microcosm of Eddington and how that really impacted people and how that led to all kinds of unrest on every front. Civil unrest, again, conspiratorial paranoia, a lot of violence. We have the Black Lives Matter movement with George Floyd, which they also address in the movie in a way. Then there's kind of the social justice, virtue signalingness of all of that as well, and kind of the overdoing it of the social justice thing to the point where people are kind of missing the point even, or pushing it too far and not really asking the people who would. There's a lot going on. Ari Aster covered a lot of ground in this, and he didn't necessarily say he felt this way or that, although I think he feels a certain way about social media and technology, but I could be wrong, because it's the view I got of how he presents social media and technology, and there's a whole AI data center being built in the town that they're some people are for, some people are against, but it seems very, you know, there's the whole Cambridge Analytica thing that happened with Facebook also at the time. There's a lot of just distrust in so many facets of society, and unease, and again violence, and again I like the snow globe effect, really distilling it in this microcosm of Eddington. So getting to a couple things that I wish we had more of, or things I didn't think worked. I thought the whole mayoral competition with Pedro Pascal, I wish we had gotten more of that. Pedro Pascal did a good job. He didn't have a ton to do, but what he did pretty effectively. But I think I wish we would have spent a little more time on that and understanding the history, because things get pretty dark and dirty as the movie goes on. The movie was fairly long, but again, with Ari Aster movies, especially going all the way back to Hereditary, it takes time to ramp up. You need to build that tension. You need to build that unrest. You need to be feeling what the characters are feeling. I felt that in Midsommar and Hereditary and Beau's Afraid, probably most of all, just being with that character through the journey and almost being back into that world. Whether or not you like that or not is up to you. His movies are not necessarily for people that, you know, want to go in and have a good time. You definitely come away feeling a little, for lack of a better word, a little icky at the end, especially because it does still all feel fresh. I mean, I haven't forgotten about all the stuff that went on. It still, I think, affects me and affects a lot of people, which I think would be cool for somebody like Ari Aster to explore, like kind of the after effects of all that. And he kind of touches on it a little bit, but the length is an issue, but it's also a non-issue because I think Ari Aster uses the time well. Shot very beautifully, but very, there's a lot of motion, but a lot of static, a lot of just, you know, gray or kind of clay desert colors and blue skies, but I don't know if it was a set they built or something, but it looked very self-contained and beautiful. And again, it just, you have that kind of the snow globe microcosm effect, which I thought was really great. But overall, I really, it feels weird to say enjoyed this film, but I felt the film, and I understood it. And I'm still feeling a little bit of that ickiness from it, because it's not a film that makes you feel good. You could get some chuckles out of it, but you end up feeling sad for everybody involved. Pretty much everybody's kind of being torn in a ton of different directions and misled, and it's all, you know, kind of, it all comes back to technology and social media. You know, it connected us, but it also separated us even further, especially during that time, and it continues to do so, but especially during that time when, you know, everybody's attention was focused on it, and a lot of people used it for nefarious purposes. Ultimately, I think this film is worth watching, especially if you're a fan of Ari Aster's other films. I know there's a weird conversation with him and not doing true horror or anything like that, but I think this fits the bill in a lot of ways, especially depending on how you go into it and how you reflect on what happened during the pandemic, especially in the height of it. There's a lot to be freaked out by, how we all so easily kind of fell into these tent poles, I guess, in society, and how it frayed seemingly over a couple months, and we're still not really recovering from it, and still fraying, I would say. But I'm not as maybe cynical as Ari Aster. I do hope one day things can start, you know, clearing up a little bit. Obviously, it's hard to do, but I hope at least people like you and I can kind of clear the air and see what's actually important on a personal scale. But I'm not going to go into my own beliefs, but I think Eddington's worth watching. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, because it doesn't seem like the kind of movie you would just put on time and time again. It would serve as a reminder for what really happened during that period, and it could be a reminder so that if something ever goes down like that, and I hope it never does, to watch out for the pitfalls of something like that, where people can basically be molded and told this way or that way, and easily, go against each other. But there's a lot more to dig into with this movie. I'm not going to go into it 100%, because I think we would be here all day and we'll pontificate and stuff like that. But I think it's worth seeing, again, especially if you're interested in these kind of movies that kind of put you in a microcosm of essentially what was reality. Maybe a slightly heightened version of it, but not that heightened, which is the scary part, the surreal part almost. Watching it back, it feels surreal, but this stuff actually happened in one way or the other. So let me know what you guys think. Are you planning on watching it? Did you watch it? What were your thoughts? If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Would love to have you for longer conversations about these movies if you'd like to have them. Really like making these. I'm making shorts every day, so put on the bell, do all that stuff so you don't miss anything. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.